Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Digitalization for SMEs Masterclass with Deskera and Microsoft. I have with me Vivek Chatrath, who leads partnerships and digitalization efforts for SMEs for Microsoft. Hi, Vivek. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm really excited to be on this seminar, and I am very keen to share some of what we've actually been seeing with SMEs and their transformation, especially since the onset of the pandemic, and how we're supporting them.
Wonderful. So let's quickly jump into our agenda for today. All right. So, as you know, today we are going to talk about digitalization for SMEs Masterclass, and few of the topics that we are going to cover would include how to go about digitalization process for your business. What are the best practices to follow? What are some mistakes to avoid? And how a growth organization should look in 2021, right? Traditionally, SMEs have relied on traditional channels, word of mouth, and footfalls happening to their physical stores. But that has all changed. I mean, Vivek, you have been talking to a lot of SMEs in Southeast Asia. What are the kind of changes that you've seen because of the pandemic coming through?
So there were a few patterns that started to emerge very early on, and one of the things that we realized was especially when we hit circuit breaker in Singapore. Now, circuit breaker, for those of you who are joining from outside Singapore, circuit breaker was went in force, I think, in the first week of April last year, when everybody was supposed to work from home. And one of the things many of our SMEs realized was that they did not have the ability to seamlessly work from a remote location, because they were not, many of them were actually not set up within the environments to be able to do so. So when they finally actually got themselves enabled to be able to converse with their colleagues, converse with their customers, converse with their suppliers from a remote location, they actually started to see other problems emerge, that many of the much of the information that they required to actually have meaningful conversations, whether it was with the customer, with their colleagues, and all that, was actually lying in silos. And many of these silos were not integrated with each other. So, for example, I had one particular CIO or an IT director of a Singapore classified SME telling me that in a conversation with one of the customers, they realized there was some part of the customer conversation, there was in part of a Zoom recording, there was another part of the customer conversation that was in a WhatsApp chat, and there was yet another information around the customers that was sitting within the transactional database. And while having the conversation with the customer, they could not piece all of this information together. So a top priority for many of these SMEs became that how do we actually establish a common platform and common processes where any information, whether it pertains to an employee or whether it pertains to a customer or whether it pertains to a supplier, can easily be found and is part of an integrated process. So this is kind of the main driver on why many of the SMEs in Singapore have been looking at driving technology-led change, and which is why you also see a lot of government fund grants that have come out over the last 17 or 18 months to support the change. That's especially for those who are in Singapore, right? And you might be available, or might be familiar with the PhD grant. You might be also available with some of the newer grants that IMD is creating. So a lot of those changes on that, but primarily it was led out of having a common collaboration platform. But now that conversation is moving from a common platform that also integrates with the core processes that many of these organizations have. So whether those processes have to do with accounting, whether they have to do with HR, again, employees, or actually they have to do with customers. So that's where the convergence is happening.
With the disruption to how they were doing business when the pandemic started, and that has kind of become the new norm now. I mean, everybody's talking about the new normal and how we have to adapt to the new normal, right? And that is where digitalization plays a super important part, and that's what we are going to focus on. So let's jump into problems that SMEs face in 2021. But before we do that, what are the downsides of not digitalizing your business, right? I mean, there are, I mean, many people use Google Docs or spreadsheets to manage their data, and that is never a good idea. if you are not digitalizing your business properly, then chances are you may end up losing all your data because of some small corruption that might happen. And there is also the question of security that comes into play. So if you are still like using only Google Sheets, for example, to manage your data, uh, please move away from that. So, what are the SME challenges in 2021? Right, we have digital transformation and faster growth. I mean, these two are the driving factors that are going to solve and help SMEs grow in the in this year, right, and the years in the future as well. And the problems that digitalization can solve are improving your cash flow as well as lowering the cost of business. It will help you manage customers better, uh, and better human capital management, which includes training of employees, upskilling of employees, and admin work and employee engagement. And it will create a collaborative culture in your organization, which is remote working enabled, and it is going to be secure and persistent. Um, Vivek, what are your thoughts?
Actually, when you initially asked me the question on what are some of the changes that we've been seeing with SMEs over the last 1 year, in fact, I did call out some, collaboration, for example, remote working. I kind of clubbed that into one category. So, what I actually talked about, the having actually an integrated platform where all your information around a customer, employee, or a supplier sits, but being able to sift through all that information so that you are able to use, or SMEs are able to use machine learning and AI to sift everything up, whether it's a structured document, right, or it's an unstructured document. They're able to bubble that up. Those are the patterns that we've started seeing. But in terms of the outcomes, what we actually saw last year was that many of our customers said, there are two things I want to actually reduce. Because if the pandemic has hit, there are two things I need to actually reduce, and one of which is actually my overall cost. And my overall cost is not only the cost of acquiring the software or the hardware, but it's also the running cost of the operations of my business. Because typically, what happened was one clear message that came out from SMEs was, I've actually got all my information sitting in silos. My customer records sit in an Excel sheet. I've actually got my financial information sitting in a particular package that does not talk to another piece of software that actually manages my customers, right? And yet my collaboration platform is something totally different. So, I've got all of these silos, but when I want to actually get a view of my business, I have to basically pull down information from everything into one spreadsheet to make sense of everything. So that is an operational running cost. So one of the things I said was, I want to reduce this cost of having to, pull information from all of these disparate pieces, because when I pull in information from all these disparate pieces, firstly, there's an information lag, there's a time lag. So the information can be outdated by the time I actually do my analysis. Second thing is, it also results in a lot of errors. So what they said was, while helping me reduce my overall cost, when you talk about lower cost and increasing cash flow, they said, while you are doing that, help me increase my team's capability or the enablement on how to use the cloud technologies that I'm going to adopt. Because we had never planned, the pandemic was unplanned, and we had not planned any of these initiatives around converging all our technology infrastructure. So help us free of charge build up our capabilities. So which is where the enablement part came in, right? So what Microsoft started doing was, obviously with Deskera, we started off looking at hearing what our customers were telling us. We started integrating our solution with the Deskera solution, so that our customers did not now have to piece all of these different pieces together, but they came integrated out of the box. We also put out a lot of free training for any of our customers and partners and suppliers and employees to take, and we put it out on the web so you can drive that enablement up. But the other thing that customers told us to reduce was the complexity that they ended up with. And the complexity is essentially what I talked about earlier, that when you actually have disparate pieces sitting across the organization, you actually introduce a lot of process complexity. And this was a huge overhead for our SME customers, right? So this is, so you are spot on. But I think the other area that you've called out that is very important is essentially around security, because over the last 1 year we have seen a much higher spate of security attacks that have actually essentially taken away the crown jewels of many of our customers. So that's another important area that has been coming up.
Right. And I mean, you mentioned, that so many people are using desperate solutions, right, as well. So basically, what I've seen is that SMEs are into three categories: those who or rather two categories rather, right? I mean, those who have not digitalized at all, and then there are those who have started their digitalization journey, but it is super fragmented at this stage, right? So you have got different solutions for different things. I mean, and let's take a look at that to get an idea of what we're talking about here, right? So if we take a look at the typical SME ecosystem, that anybody who wants to go on a digitalization journey, right, what you're looking at are upwards of 15, 16, 18 apps that you will probably have to end up using. And I mean, you want to digitalize your marketing, your invoicing, the bank transactions, procurement, sales, order management. Then you have your taxes and GST and VAT and whatnot. Then if you have, I mean, if you're selling inventory, then you need warehouse management, you need inventory management. Obviously, getting a 360 view of your customers and trying to use that data to upsell, cross sell, or retarget dropped customers, that is super important as well. So I mean, when you start, I mean, if I am an SME and I look at this, I get scared, right? That, okay, I mean, how many things do I have to manage? And I start with maybe one or two, and then when I want to scale up, or I want to use something else, I all of a sudden realize that my marketing application doesn't talk to my accounting application. So again, I have to use one person who will go in and download the data from my CRM and will upload it into my accounting, or he will go and get the invoice paid data from my accounting system and then take it back to my CRM. So this is what is really pushing SMEs away from digitalization, or creating that barrier, so as to speak of, for them to go fully digital. What has been your experience in this?
Actually, so many years back, and I've worked for very large companies. I've also worked for small companies. I've actually worked for Singapore and SME also, right? Quite a few years back, and we used to do a lot of this stuff where we used to pull in data from different systems and combine it and put it into an Excel sheet, and then try to do our analysis, right? Now, when you start doing analysis, firstly, it is hard to figure out, what sort of simple statistical tool you should be using for a particular kind of insight. But then the bigger problem was that sometimes we didn't even know what was the latest version of this many spreadsheets, because one spreadsheet would proliferate into 10 different versions, and 10 people could be seeing 10 different spreadsheets. So sometimes when we went into meetings, we started arguing whether the other person's data was right, and whether my data was right. And in many cases, both our data were wrong, because we actually had both old versions, but one person had an older version, one had the much older version, right? And the latest data was something else. So, and this created a lot of overhead in terms of the cost of doing business. A lot of overhead, more than actually the cost of the software itself. And it is a situation that is so pervasive even now, it's not funny, right? Which is why what Microsoft internally has done is everything now in terms of our data is online. We are discouraged from downloading anything into a spreadsheet. Everything is online and everything is updated every day, right? And today, many of our SMEs actually have the technology to get notifications every time something gets updated. And that's where the work that Deskera has been doing together with Microsoft is to automate a lot of these processes, so SMEs don't have to deal now with different islands of information anymore.
Wonderful. Thank you, Vivek. So going back to the SME ecosystem here, right? I mean, the typical reaction, when an SME has to, if they want to start that digitalization journey, then the typical reaction is, oh my God, so many systems. And then immediately you start thinking about the cost of all these systems. There is a cost associated, obviously, in running these systems, in acquiring these systems. Then you have a cost associated in managing data transfer between these systems. And you have an additional cost of training your employees on multiple systems, right? And this is where all the barrier towards digitalization starts forming. And then people have I mean, they are like, okay, we are spending so much time in it, but are we getting any value out of it? And this is where we are going to talk, we are going to pitch in today with steps and rules that you can follow to make your digitalization journey easy, and what are the kind of systems or projects that you should run to make digitalization a success for you, instead of being a white elephant that you invest in but you are not getting anything out. And where do we begin? So here are a few points, and the first thing, as Vivek also mentioned earlier, I mean, eliminate your data silos, right? And integrate everything together. Obviously, if you have multiple solutions though, and you want to integrate them together, then there is a cost around that as well. And again, you have to, do the math. You have to take a, spreadsheet out, or maybe a calculator, and then you have to figure that, okay, if I spend so much hours in doing this integration, and then, I mean, is it going to give me the value that I want from it? And then tomorrow, if I want to make any changes, let's say that, I have updated how I capture my customer data, or there are some new data sources that I want to capture, is this integration still going to work or not? And then you have all these recurring costs of maintenance and updating that just keeps on piling up. And that is what you want to eliminate by having a single source of truth for your different processes, for your different departments, for your different employees and functions, right? Then cutting down on manual tasks. So anything that can be done automatically, we should try to automate it, right? I mean, nobody wants to do more admin work. You would rather be, spending your time trying to acquire a new customer than to send reminders to 10 customers to pay their invoices, right? I mean, that is something that is an absolute, shortcut to a win situation. Then
So,
we talk about,
Saurabh,
yeah.
there's a question in the video from Raj. Do we take the questions now, or should we actually take the questions later?
We can take them as they come along. That's fine.
Okay. So essentially, Raj has a question on how do we integrate among the different pieces of software, right? So Raj, I think that's a very, very good question. Now, when you talk about the data silos that Saurabh was presenting in his previous slide, in many SMEs, when we talk about data silos, these data silos could either be in the form of a software, or these could actually be kind of managed manually on a as simple as a register, right? So what Deskera has done is Deskera has already got an integrated suite. So across accounting, across customer management, and across the human capital, right? So they've got the payroll and all, everything is integrated. But one of the things when we started talking to SMEs was, how do I actually integrate my collaboration platform, and how do I make even the work that Deskera is doing? How do I kind of automate the decision making process? So which is when Deskera and Microsoft started working at that time to essentially integrate their ERP pack system, right, into our Office 365 and Microsoft Teams, because many customers are now using Teams. So, and the kind of integration that we are doing is, so I'll give you a few scenarios, right? One integration we are doing is to actually integrate the Deskera solution into Teams, where if any owner of the business wants to have a call with with the financial controller, they can actually bring up the Deskera application within Teams, and they can have a chat within the team call that they're having. They can share documents within that Teams call, and all of that information is actually recorded, right? So none of that information pertaining to their conversations or the chats that they have leaves the environment of the Teams conversation. Because if you think about how things are happening today, if the owner of the business is looking at something that he wants to ask the financial controller, he'll probably pick up the phone and have a conversation, but none of the context of that particular conversation that they're having is captured in a single repository. So that's one part of integration that we're doing. The other part of integration where we are doing is that we are also trying to integrate the Deskera application into our low-code, no-code application platform that comes as part of Office 365, so that every time there's a certain trigger point that actually hits, say, for example, there's a particular threshold that is reached, say, for example, a reorder point of something that the customer wants to order, they can actually automate that notification depending on whatever the customer wants to do, and send a notification to say that, look, you've reached your reorder point for item number A. Here is a notification that you might want to reorder, right? Typically, many of these things were left to the SMEs to integrate. What we are trying to do is to integrate these things beforehand, so that in any SME that's already running Office 365 and Teams, when they buy the Deskera solution, they have the integration already built in. So we are actually doing this integration for SMEs, and this is something that has also caught the interest of IMDA, right? Which for many, many years has also been trying to get all of the software providers out there that serve SMEs to do that integration amongst themselves. So Deskera and Microsoft actually kind of thought ahead, and we've started, bringing that to market already.
Right. And just to add on to what you said, Vivek. So, I mean, yes, I mean, APIs is one way to definitely integrate multiple applications. But the question is that, do you want to spend that much time and effort to integrate using those APIs? because there is a cost involved there, right? I mean, it's not going to happen by itself, number one. Number two, uh, if you are doing it yourself, is it future proof? That is, will it scale with the changing needs of your business? So I mean, so typically when you are connecting APIs, right, you are giving you are sending some kind of a payload through the API, or it could be a webhook for that matter, right? But that payload can change in the future depending on what kind of information you are capturing today versus what you might want to capture tomorrow. Your product list can change, your category can change. Maybe you want to capture more information, maybe you want to capture less information, right? And every time that happens, chances are you will have to upgrade the integration API between your two softwares, and it is just additional cost that keeps on piling up. And that's where Microsoft and Deskera are working together to kind of make that effort non-existent, so you don't have to do it in the first place. We are trying to give it to you out of the box, and that's
Yeah.
the whole idea, of integrating multiple solutions together to create a wholesome experience for the end user, which is you.
Yeah. So Raj, to your question about can the reorder be automated without the approval to buy? A lot of things can be automated, but typically for any company, if you want to reorder, right, you don't want to automate that process because if you were automating everything and then and there was an automation to buy anything, then cash flow can become a problem in the company. So many times for any owner of the business, right, you got to weigh, okay, I've reached the reorder point for this, but I've also reached the reorder point for this, but the profit I'm making on this is actually a lot more than the profit of this, and I only have so much cash to buy one, right? So I want to basically go ahead with this. So that's why automation for everything is not very good. We have to leave the end decision to the customer. Now the workflow tool that we are integrating, or the workflow engine and the low code no code engine that we are integrating with the Deskera application, is something that allows any end user without any technical training to be able to build any kind of workflow, right? That's the kind of capability we built. So because many of the SMEs don't actually have a lot of IT talent, and whatever IT talent they do have, they want to put them to the most value added use, right? Not to glue together software, but to do the value added stuff on top of that.
Correct. Completely. And yeah, Raj agrees with you. So awesome. Thank you, Raj, for the question. And let's go back to the, what is the name? Okay, there's one more question from Raj. Let's.
Yeah.
What is the name of the tool, the workflow tool?
Yeah, it's actually called Power Platform, and Power Platform is a family of different capabilities. So there's Power Apps, there's Power Automate, and there's a data engine under that called Dataverse, and then there are these connectors that we are building to the Deskera application. So 4 different components: so Power Apps, Power Automate, the Dataverse data engine, and then the connectors that we are building right now. What is Microsoft Office role? Teams, Power Apps, Power Automate are already part of Office 365. Another scenario that I can give you is that if you basically took data from the Deskera application and put it into, say, Office 365 Excel Online, right? Excel Online already exposes a lot of services, for example, from Azure Machine Learning. So if you basically had some data sitting in the Deskera application and you exported the data out into Excel, you can essentially select that data within an Excel Online, and you can just click a button on your Excel Online, which is called Ideas, and it will instantly give you about 35 to 40 different kind of analysis using, so for example, regression, things like correlation, or things like, if you're time series forecasting, right, using the different algorithms and all that, it all automates that process. Previously, you had to go and select the function. Now it's all done, at the click of a button, and then you select what sort of analysis you want to use, which is why the integration with Office was very important, because it now allows SMEs to straight away pull data from the Deskera application, but then to use AI capabilities within of Office 365 that are already available out of the box to be able to do analysis quickly. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks. Right. So let's so going back to our original slide here, right? The third point is eliminating legacy processes, and this is something I feel very strongly about as well. Now, all of us have certain processes in place, and what we try to do is that we try to digitalize existing processes, and this is a failure point, right? Why is that? Because the existing processes were created or built to support a non-digital um, flow, right? I mean, we did not have digitalization in the 1980s or the 1990s, or not as much as what we have today, right? But what we are doing is that there are certain processes that we are still carrying over, as legacy because it has been done that way. And I mean, frankly, I mean, there have been situations where I have asked the finance guy that, okay, why are we doing it this way? And the only answer is that, because we have been doing it this way. And that's a very good, clear indication that, I mean, if you have a process and the only answer to why do you have that process is because you have been doing it that way forever, then probably it's time to take a hard look at why you have it this way. One example that I would like to take here is uh, invoice numbering, for example, right? So invoice numbering used to be super complicated, right? I mean, when you receive an invoice, there could be a customer code component followed by a date, or a month component followed by a running number followed by a product code. And that is the kind of invoice numbering that people have been maybe using for some time. And there was a good reason to use that earlier, because earlier, when we did not have digitalization, right, how did we maintain all the invoices? We used to keep ledgers, and those ledgers used to be filed, and there has to be a filing mechanism. And that filing mechanism is what led to the creation of these invoice numbers, because then you can quickly sort out from your files and folders as to which invoice was required whenever it was needed, based on even one piece of information, and then quickly pull out that hard copy and present it, or go through it, or whatever that you needed to do with it. With digitalization, with systems like Deskera, you don't need that kind of complexity anymore. Why? Because there is smart search in the in all systems, right? I mean, you just start typing the customer name, it will give you all the invoices. You type 3 letters of the invoice number, it will give you the invoice. You can type even the amount, or the customer code or ID or the product, and it will just give you the invoice that you want. You can put in a date range, and it will give you all the invoices within that range. So there are multiple processes that we are still carrying over, that were created to make searching and sorting easy for a pile of hard copies, right, which don't apply anymore. So when you are going on your digital journey, uh, just think about this, that okay, do I really need this, or do I want this, or is this process helping me in any way, or is it creating any barrier in my digitalization? Vivek, any similar experiences that you have had?
Uh, Actually, this is something we face a lot even within Microsoft, right? We are trying to. We've okay. So I joined, just to give everybody context, right? I actually joined Microsoft a month after Satya took over. Satya Nadella, right? He took over, and I've seen the transformation on Microsoft, where actually the process part was improved significantly, to the extent, and just for the business that I run, right? So I run the small, medium, and corporate business for Microsoft Singapore, which essentially constitutes about 43% of our revenues here. And from the changes that have happened on the process side, right, I think I have actually got 50% more time to focus on my team and their performance, and to spend time with our customers, than I actually had 7 years ago, right? And how a lot of that actually was actually how a lot of that time was actually given back, because a lot of the manual work that I had to do piecing together information from these disparate systems is now automated, and machine learning basically gives a lot of that information to me, where I now save many hours in a day from having to piece together data, but I just get the insight and basically spend more time with customers, just as I'm spending more time with you today, right? So the process improvement is fundamentally very, very important, and you've got to think about, how do I actually drive process improvement, and then overlay technology on top of that. And what we are trying to do now is not just for you to leave the onus on you to drive process improvement, but what we are trying to do is to bring an integrated set of technology components that take that do away with silos. What are the silos that you've had within the organization? But think about how you would want to improve your processes to leverage this, because just banking on some of the older processes that you actually had within your organization, putting technology on top of that is never going to solve a problem.
Exactly. Imagine, over 50%. I mean, this is a case study right in front of you, right? I mean, 50% of time saved by improving your processes and then digitalizing the right processes, right? So that's what and Peter Drucker said something about this a very long time ago, that there is nothing sadder than doing something efficiently what that should not be done at all, right? So take this. My advice is always to ask this question before you want to digitalize a particular process, or you want to transfer a process from manual to digital, that should this really be there in the first place at all, right? So then moving on to the next point, which is to start selling online. All right. Now, some of you may say that, hey, I mean, what's the point of selling online? I mean, and it may require a lot of effort, or it's difficult to get a website up, or to start selling online, because I mean, how do you go about it, right? And what is the benefit of actually selling online? Because I launched a website and it only got two people. I only made two sales from that website. I did not make more than two sales. So what's the point? I mean, I don't see a point. I sell more from my store. And I mean, when you encounter the question, right, what you're looking at is today, but you have to take a look at the future as well, right? I mean, even if you're selling only two people, I mean, even if you're selling, to only two people from the website, that's two more than what you're selling from your store, right? And this number is gonna increase. But what is important is that you have the growth engine, which is built around digitalization, to keep these two people, get these two people to get you two more, and gradually, build that flywheel online, which will then turn into a revenue generating engine. And that is, I mean, we will be looking at how an ideal growth uh, company should look like in 2021, and how you can best use online. But even for now, right, I mean, if you're worried about the cost and the effort of setting up a website, it is super easy nowadays, right? I mean, it is super easy, super simple. You don't need to know a single line of code. There are so many no code applications available. I mean, Deskera has an online website builder and a landing page builder, which you can instantly use to start selling online, right? There is Shopify, there is WooCommerce. There are multiple solutions, right? It's all a question of just setting it up and letting it go, and then once you have it in place, then it's time to just let it run for some time, get some customers that are coming organically, and then based on use that to build your growth flywheel. And we will be talking in greater detail about that later in the session as well. Then making collaboration easier and planning for mobile and for remote work. Vivek, you want to talk about these?
See, I think the early example that I gave you about this CIO, right, that articulated the problem that they actually encountered when they went into circuit breaker. Again, I'll kind of repeat that for those of you who joined late. There was a problem statement that a CIO said, where he said today they had a customer meeting. Part of the information regarding that customer conversation was sitting in email exchanges. Part of it was sitting in a Zoom recording that they had. Part of it was sitting in WhatsApp chats, right? And part of it was sitting within the transactional system that they had, where they had recorded the customer transactions. And they said when they got into a chat with the customer, there was quite a lot of frustration with the customer, because he realized that the CIO's company actually did not even have this place in a single repository, let alone trying to piece all of that information together, that to create some insight, right? Where they could actually decide what value to bring to the customer. So one of the initiatives that this customer decided to do was to actually converge their entire collaboration platform, and within that collaboration platform have all the structured as well as the unstructured content. And in this case, the customer went to Microsoft 365. They basically put all of the information within SharePoint Online. They put it within Teams, because one of the things we have done, and which is what we are trying to leverage also with Deskera, is to have everything in a single repository. When a customer does, a user goes and does a search, everything, whether it's a chat, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a video recording, whether it's a document, all of that information gets pulled up when you're searching for customer A, right? Everything pertaining to that customer A gets pulled up, so that then you can decide. And all of those things that get pulled up also are marked by relevancy, right? This thing is the 88% relevant to the query that you have. This thing is 70% relevant, so that the productivity for any end user organization is increased dramatically. That was the problem that we have been trying to solve endlessly for our customers, especially since the pandemic broke out. And one of the things we are trying to do with Deskera is, how do we actually unify our platforms in a way that allows that the searches to actually become a lot more seamless? Because fundamentally, it translates into productivity for a customer,
Absolutely.
right? And that's what we are trying to do.
And with AI and machine learning in place, I mean, you have a video call with your client, you have chat, you have some message. All of this can be simply, transcribed and then put together in a neat package for you to view against that customer's, screen, right? I mean, when you're looking at your customer view, all of this information is easily accessible from one screen. And that is the power and beauty of, having an integrated, digitalized system in place.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to call out, right? I thanks Saurabh for calling out the word data and AI, right? Now, many of us SME customers ask us, how do I actually get started with AI? And my answer is, first thing is, you don't even need to build AI capability within your organization. Trust me, right? All you need to do is just go a search, whether you want to search Google, you want to use Google or you want to use Microsoft Bing, just do a search on AI capabilities within Office 365. Many of you will be using Office 365. There will be tons of AI capabilities that any person, and I'm telling you, I know nothing about AI, right? Yet I can use AI capabilities at the click of a button within Office 365 to enhance. If I want to basically do a PowerPoint slide, I just use AI capabilities and let the AI services within Azure that basically get exposed within PowerPoint decide for me what is the format of my presentation that should be going to be created, right? So use AI, start using those AI capabilities because you already have them. You don't even need to pay an extra dollar for it. You don't have to pay an extra cent for it. There are instructions online on how for you or any of your users within your organization to capitalize on that. Yeah. Thanks, Saurabh, for calling that out because I think it was something important for me to tell our SME friends.
Wonderful. Thank you, Vivek. And planning for mobile and for remote work, I mean, it goes without saying. I mean, it has to be there because, I mean, we have already seen the impact of not having those plans in place. And when you're selecting or choosing a system to digitalize your processes, it is important that they have the support for letting your employees work remotely, for letting you do your business on the go. And with Deskera and Microsoft, that is super easy and simple to do because there is a mobile app, and with the collaboration tools that we have, between Deskera and Microsoft, they kind of make this entire process seamless and fun to work with.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a question for this is for Deskera, so I'll pass this to you. It's from Bhushan, who's
Yeah.
essentially asked whether this Deskera tool is useful for service-based industry enterprise.
Absolutely. So, see, I mean, if you are in service based or industry or enterprise, right? Then, I mean, maybe you can also tell us about, what exact, I mean, which service industry you are in. But in general, right? I mean, when you are signing up for Deskera, right? It will ask you whether you are a service based industry or if you are using inventory or products to sell. And if you select, service based, then the entire experience changes in terms of, the modules that you see, for example, which you want to use. Correct. I mean, if you're selling inventory and you need multiple warehouses, then you will see warehouses and inventory and product variants and 10,000 other things. Whereas if you select service, then the invoice screen itself can change. Instead of having units of measurement and items, you will have service or fee, etc. I mean, those terms will automatically change. Your entire experience will change. So it is already optimized for service industry, and there is absolutely no reason why a service industry cannot use it. Why? Because I mean, see, you have to do your time tracking, you have to raise invoices, you have to track your customers, you have to I mean, you also have to grow, right? I mean, growth is common for every industry, and if you want to grow faster, right, then Deskera is the right tool.
Yeah. Now, there's also a question from Shekhar on AI and ML are still a challenge, gray area for many SMEs. Okay, so Shekhar, actually, I would partly agree to that statement. I would also partly disagree to the statement. The reason being that AI is a very broad term, right? AI, ML, data science is a very, very broad term, right? And there are many, many different problems that are tackled by the broad area that firstly AI is, and there are certain problems that actually require deep expertise, right? So if you're getting into the domain of, say, for example, predictive or preventive maintenance, obviously you need deeper expertise to solve some of those problems because there's no out of the box algorithm to solve some of those problems. Whereas there are simpler problems that actually can be attacked by AI and machine learning that are already out of the box, even in packages like, for example, like I mentioned earlier, Excel Online or even PowerPoint Online, because fundamentally now behind a lot of these applications that somebody's using, right? Let's say Excel Online, there's already a lot of AI and machine learning algorithms that Microsoft Azure is exposing into each of the cells, right? What I recommend is to get started for some of the simpler use cases. Start to see some of the videos that are online, or feel free to reach out to me, via LinkedIn or whatever, and I can send you some links where you can actually start learning some of these capabilities. The other thing I would suggest to you is Microsoft has actually launched a free AI school. So just search for Microsoft AI School online, and we actually have launched something called an AI school and an AI business school in partnership with INSEAD that allows business users to understand how to leverage AI, right? And there are a lot of resources that we've put there that many of the SMEs can start using free of charge to build the capabilities on AI and machine learning, right? So it's called AI Business School from Microsoft. Just search on that, and you should be able to get some access there.
Awesome. Thank you. So Bhushan has responded. He's saying that uh, I'm sorry, wait, let me put that in. Yeah, diesel generator sales and services. So that's interesting. So if you're selling diesel generators, are you actually selling like the generators themselves, or are you only providing the servicing option for them? I mean, in either case, I mean, whatever be the model of your business, right? You can sell it up in Deskera. If you are selling diesel generators as physical products themselves, then you can use a hybrid organization where there is both product and service, and both of these can be maintained, and you can have the entire list at your disposal, which will allow you to manage both from one single screen. When you're creating an invoice, for example, right, let's say that you're selling the diesel generator and you are also going to provide service for the next 6 months for that particular generator as per the terms of the contract, then you can easily add both in the invoice. And all of this is going to come from your product list, because your product can include physical products as well as service items, and both are supported and both will be there. And I mean, it's as simple as that. And when you're sending out your invoice or quotations or orders, it's just going to reflect without any hassle. And another thing is that whatever the taxation is, because taxation is generally different for service items and physical product items in many countries, so that is also going to be automatically applied based on the category of the product that you're using. And that will so that's even one, so that's one lesser thing for you to worry about.
Yeah.
Then Shekhar is asking that can we integrate our existing CRM tool with Deskera? This reminds me of this. I don't know how many of you have seen the Matrix or remember the movie, but there was the scene where Neo and Morpheus are fighting, and then Morpheus tells him that you need to believe in yourself. When Neo says that, "Are you telling me that I can dodge bullets?" And what Morpheus says is that, "What I'm trying to tell you is that when you're ready, you won't need to dodge them." So that's my answer also, that when you have Deskera, you don't need another CRM. But the short answer is yes, you can connect your existing CRM to Deskera as well if you feel the need to. We have APIs and webhook support, so just hook it up and it will work like a charm. Having said that, I mean, if you have Deskera, then there is absolutely no reason why you're not using Deskera CRM as well, because that connects at multiple levels. Plus, it then puts all your data together in one view, right? Which makes it so much easier for you to process information and then make better business decisions.
Yeah, thanks, Shekhar. I hope the suggestions that I gave actually were useful. But feel free to ping me on LinkedIn, and I'll send you more resources if that's required. Now, there's a question from BizRe Solutions. Can Deskera workflow MS Power Automate can be used to create a workflow and sell it to our customers? I think we need to understand this scenario a little more. The integration between Power Platform and Deskera is already underway, right? So what we're trying to do is to create a connector, right? So integration doesn't have to be right now. As we are building that integration can still be done, but we need to understand the scenario more. So I think that's a conversation that you can have with the Deskera team, and then behind the scenes we will actually work and support Deskera for this particular conversation and scenario that you're looking at.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, so let's move back to the slides. Okay. And the next point is data persistence, recoverability, and security. If you remember that first tweet that we showed earlier, you can lose data, and if you are not using a system that supports persistence, recoverability, and has got built-in, industry best security in place, then you are always at risk of either losing your data or compromising your data to unsavory elements, which definitely you should not be doing. And the best way to do that is to invest or use systems that are already using industry best practices. So for example, you have got Microsoft Azure, which is one of the best in terms of cloud security, and then you've got Deskera, which uses all the industry best practices, including encryption, SSL, whatnot. I mean, there are multiple things there, and this is like super important for you to focus on. But in addition to just the external security, what you also want is a tool that provides internal security, because you have different users, you've got multiple employees in your company, they are accessing the system. You don't want an unauthorized person to, for example, go and look at your profit and loss statement, right? That you want to encapsulate certain information within your system. And so any system or tool that you use should have the capability of providing role-based access management, wherein you can create multiple roles, you can map employees to those roles, and then those roles can be given specific rights or access to different sections of the system, which allows you to maintain both internal security as well as external security.
I think so. I just want to add on that, right? So Saurabh actually brings up a very important point. So one of the things that we are doing. So what happens typically in an organization is you have an accounting system, right? And then you have a particular email system. In that email system, if the security is not being set up, then somebody can actually key in somebody's credit card number and all of that information and send it out, right? In violation of PDPA, right? So a lot of these things can happen. If you're using Office 365 and you're one of the people who's oversees the IT function, right? Make sure that you're leveraging a feature within Office 365 that's already built in, right? It's there, it's free of charge. It's called Secure Score. As an administrator, you can go in and it will automatically tell you the readiness of your organization in terms of security, in compliance, and in terms of governance. And it will give you recommendations. It will tell you where you're failing in terms of the way you set up your security policies. And it will allow you to select, for example, PDPA in Singapore. It'll allow you to select, for example, there's another, it's escaping my mind. You can select whatever regulations that you're governed by. PCI DSS, which is actually the ruling that the regulation that governs the sharing of financial information, right? You can set all of those things up so that if you are now using a Deskera application and you want to share some piece of financial information with somebody else within the organization, right? It will automatically give you an alarm that you are actually sharing a piece of information that is not in compliance with PDPA. And this is all a native capability that sits within Office 365, which is why we are integrating with Deskera, because these two things are so closely intertwined, where you pull some information out and then you share it with somebody else without thinking about it. So within Office 365, you can go into Secure Score. It will automatically tell you without actually having to get an auditor that these are the things that you need to turn on to increase the security posture of your organization, right? And it will tell you how to do it. So you don't even need to hire an outside consultant to do a security evaluation within your organization. So this is how we are complementing, bringing together the Deskera application and the capabilities that we have within Office 365. Because there was a question asked earlier, right? How are we integrating the Deskera solution to the Office suite? It goes actually beyond the sharing of information, but it also goes encapsulates the security part of it. Yeah,
That's wonderful. Awesome. So having kind of looked at multiple things, right? A couple of key standouts for me always are that when you're planning your digital journey, or even if you have started your digital journey, right, do not wait for 100% digitalization, because that can actually hold you back. Correct. So I know this is kind of slightly contrary to what we said earlier, in terms of that, okay, that you want everything integrated, which is true, and that should be the driving factor behind what solutions or what systems you pick. Correct. But having said that, I mean, let's say you have, 50 different processes that you follow in your organization, and you are able to digitalize maybe 30 of them right off the bat, off the shelf, without having to wait for anything. You can just, for example, with Deskera, right? I mean, if you go in and sign up for a free trial right now, or set up your account, you can immediately digitalize your invoicing, payment, your contact, email campaigns, etc., so on, right? And this will probably digitalize and automate maybe 50, 60, 70% of your business processes now. But the important thing is that you go ahead and do that now. Why? Because the benefit of digitalizing and automating those processes is going to compound over time. Whereas if you wait for 100% to happen, then chances are that you will be at 0% right now, and you will continue to be at 0% for quite some time. And you want to avoid that, because you want any benefits to come your way immediately. For example, right, I mean, as Vivek mentioned, there are multiple integrations that we are already working on, between Deskera and Microsoft. And some of those integrations will take some time, but that does not mean that you have to wait for everything to be in place, because there are already integrations in place already, connections that we have built that provide benefit to your business today, and you can immediately start availing those benefits if you start using Deskera and Microsoft together.
Yeah. So Raj actually has a question: how Deskera can prevent or save us from attacks like ransomware?
All right. So how? Okay. So ransomware attacks, Deskera by itself, I mean, would not be able to prevent any ransomware attack, because it depends on which application that what application gets compromised, right? Typically, I mean, but the good thing is that Deskera itself cannot be compromised by any ransomware attack, right? Because of the inbuilt security and architecture of the system. Having said, I mean, again, I'm saying this with quotes. I don't want to enrage some hacker out there who's like, okay, no, fine, I want to prove that wrong. But
Yeah.
best to the best of my knowledge, that is.
Okay, so Raj, just on that, we just Microsoft just made an announcement last night, or I think less than 24 hours ago, that we are releasing a solution called Fusion Detection for Ransomware, which which alerts you to a potential threat within the malware that could actually be a ransomware attack. So it's called Fusion Detection for Ransomware. Just do a search on the web, and because it's just been announced, so I don't have a lot of details on it, but it's good to do a search on that, because Microsoft is actually working with a lot of security agencies around the world, whether it's Interpol, with with the CIA, with FBI, to take down a lot of these bad actors who are spreading the ransomware. But now we've just announced it too. Yeah, Fusion Detection for Ransomware.
Wonderful. Okay. So coming back to the slide. Layout guy. Okay, thank you so much. So, and the last point, integration is the key, right? And we have kept this, I mean, we have said this multiple times, and we will keep talking about this, because somebody once told me that there is no such thing as over communication. So, but yeah, I mean, integration is key. Why? Because even if you are going with a modular approach, you eventually want everything to work together, and you don't want to redo your entire effort to integrate everything together, or to chuck everything out and then get a new system. And so even if you're starting small, you want to go with systems, you want to go with solutions that are capable of doing the entire ecosystem of digitalization for you from the word get go. So even if you don't want to spend so much time or effort or energy in digitalizing your entire business, but maybe specific parts, you can still continue that process in the same ecosystem, instead of having to trying to figure out how to connect multiple different things together. And that is where integration is super, super important, right? I mean, integration creates real value for your business, right? It is the value generator that you are missing out on if you're using multiple solutions, or if you're using no digitalization solutions. Let's take a look.
So, yeah, this is a question from Quavin, which is what is the integration between Deskera and Microsoft that we think is most important and brings value to a wide range of customers? So, Quavin, in my opinion, there are different customers that will place different levels of importance to different pieces of integration, because each customer will, even within the same industry, customers of the same size, right? They could actually have different pain points that they're trying to solve. So what is an important integration, what Deskera and Microsoft are doing for one customer is probably going to be different for another customer, right? So it's very hard to call that out. But what we have been prioritizing, though, is from a whole set of customers who basically called out certain big pain points that they were trying to address. We are trying to integrate, basically take the lowest common denominator and do those integrations first, while leaving some of the other ones to later, right? So there's obviously the ones that customers are calling out as important, but there are some that actually take a longer time to integrate than others. So the easier ones we were getting it done earlier, right? So essentially, it's like they say, right? There's a saying, right? Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, right? So essentially, it's the same thing. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Kwa, for the question, and Vivek for the answer. And I mean, here is a small example, right? I mean, this may be the scenario for your business today, or parts of it, and there are different variations to this that probably will be true for your business today, right? Let's say that your sales rep closes a deal, then once there is a deal closure, you want to send an order confirmation or an invoice to your customer, which they do, but your CRM is not talking to your accounting. So after you do that, the sales rep has to then send the same thing to the finance team or the accounts team. Then the accounts team have to record that invoice, and there is a due date for the invoice payment, and that payment may or may not happen on time. If it happens, very good. If it does not happen, then the accounts team has to follow up with the sales rep for the payment. Then the sales rep has to remind the customer. Then the customer makes the payment, and then he tells the sales rep, okay, payment has been done. Then the sales rep will update this in their CRM, and then they will go and tell the accounts team that, hey, my payment has received. Here is the check or the copy or the proof of the payment, and they will update the accounting system. This is for one invoice. You have to jump through so many hoops, and there are like 3 or 4 different parties involved. Imagine if one of them is on leave, or somebody is sick, or they are unreachable at this point of time. Then your process stops. It comes to it comes to standstill. And if you are doing 1,000, 10,000, 15,000 invoices, the chances of this happening are going to multiply by that bigger number. Compare this with scenario 2, where your sales rep closes the deals in the CRM. They create an invoice and they send it to the customer with a payment link. So you don't have to wait for the customer to write a check, get it signed, get approval for that check, etc. There is a payment link there. That payment link, you click on it, it does the payment immediately, right? The invoice is also automatically added to your accounts receivable in the accounting system. So nobody has to go and manually do it. You can create some kind of an approval flow in between that. Okay, anytime an invoice is created by a sales rep, there is an approval flow. The notification goes to the accounts team. They can say, yes, this seems genuine, and they just have to click a button. They don't have to look at the PDF or the hard copy or whatever and then enter the details in their accounting system. It just gets added. Then you have already set rules wherein anytime an invoice is added, there is a due date, and a reminder is sent to the customer before the due date. Maybe, I mean, you can do this in Deskera today, right? You can set invoice reminders for payments, and it can be configured so that you can send one reminder 10 days before the due date, another one 2 days before, one on the actual due date, and this will auto stop if the payment has already been received. If they have already made the payment either via the payment link, or even if they have made offline payment and it has been updated in the system. And I mean, you look at the simplicity of the process when you digitalize it, or and compare it with digitalization on disparate systems versus digitalization done using an integrated system, and the benefits are there for you to see. And the question that you really need to ask is that, hey, if I have not digitalized, then why have I not done so? Because this is clearly, I mean, scenario 2 is clearly better than scenario 1, right? From every angle, I don't see a downside. And if you have started your digitalization journey, but you have got multiple systems in place, then why are you not moving to an integrated system? Vivek,
Yeah, so there's some questions actually. Raj actually has a question. Are there any pre-created automations in Deskera, like closing for finance and accounting, or bank reconciliations and GST reconciliations?
All right. So, Raj, yes. So, for example, you can connect your bank in Deskera. You can connect your bank to Deskera. So you have maybe HDFC or SBI or whatever that is connected, and then you can create automation rules. So anytime any bank transaction is recorded, right? You can create rules that it is recorded as an expense or a deposit in the Deskera system automatically. That is just one example of an automation that you can do right now today in Deskera. All right. How this saves you time is, uh, what happens today if you do not have a bank connection to your accounting system is that your accountant or somebody will be getting the bank statement. They'll be looking at the bank statement, they will be looking at your accounting system, they will first match, okay, what transactions are in, what transactions are not, and then they will start creating the ones that don't exist, and then they will have to map it against invoices or expenses or bills and purchases and whatnot, and that takes a lot of time, right? Whereas with this process in place, you get your data in automatically. Nobody has to do manual statement comparing or even have to upload an Excel statement, right? And then you create the rule, and automatically all the transactions are created, which you can then map to individual invoices, etc., based on the amount, etc., or the name of the contact that is there on the statement and in your system. So this is just one example, and there are other automations that are available in Deskera that will help you to even cut down on day-to-day manual admin tasks.
And then there's another question from Christ Wolves. SSO authentication from Deskera to Microsoft AD, possible, secured? This one, I don't have the answer because I don't know what stage the integration is at.
Yeah.
Or we
So
could probably go back.
yeah. I think he's asking about integration between Microsoft Active Directory and Deskera SSO. It is possible, yes. Is it secure? We done it as of now? No, we haven't, right? But yes, that is one of the things that will happen. So you can essentially use one ID to log into your Deskera account, your Microsoft account, but that is you know going to happen once we have finished what we are working on, which is building better workflows and engines by connecting Deskera and Microsoft together.
Yeah. So just one other point I wanted to make is, and just to elaborate a bit further on what I was saying, that if your organization is using Office 365, go into this function called Secure Score, because it will give you suggestions on how to actually make an environment more secure by things like putting in two-factor authentication and all of that stuff, right? So it just basically it gives you a benchmark on what your organization's security posture is, given the policies that you've set up, versus best-in-class organizations. Obviously, you don't want to maximize your score, because maximizing your score means that the system will become very rigid and there will be no flexibility. So there's a balance that you've got to basically establish. It says these are the recommendations, and this is why the recommendations are important, and this is how you implement the recommendations. But now then it is your choice on which are the ones you want to put in place. So just kind of on the security, since we're on the topic of security and compliance, I just thought I'd highlight that again, because it is a very critical topic these days for our customers.
Absolutely. Right. So so this is one example, that we, and I mean, really, you need to ask yourself this question: that where is your business today? Are you doing what is there in scenario 2, or are you doing what is there in scenario 1? Because there is a a tangible loss of resources that is happening in scenario 1, and there are more roadblocks and chances of failure in scenario 1 versus scenario 2. There are other scenarios here, but we will share this PPT because I don't want to spend too much time going through every single scenario, but we will be sharing this presentation with you, so you can always take a look at the different scenarios. But the key idea is that, are you making it easy for your customers and for your employees, right? Are you making it easy for your customers to do business with you? Are they able to place orders without having to call somebody or to physically go somewhere? Can they do it from the comfort of their home or their office? Can they do it on their mobile phone? Can they do it from their desktop or the laptop? If the answer is yes, how can I make it easy for my customers to send me business? Number one. And two, because I want to improve my cash flow and revenue and money collected, am I making it easy for my customers to pay me easily? One second. Sorry about that. So I mean, the purpose of digitalization and automation and integration, end of the day, is you make your customers happy, you make your employees happy, and if you in your hand, and make it easy for your customers to place orders, make it easy for your customers to track orders, make it easy for you to support your customers online, make it easy for customers to share problems with you. And doing it online is so much easier because everybody is on their phone, everybody is on a laptop or a desktop or their phone at one point of the time or the other. And if you make it easy for them, then they are going to appreciate you and you're going to create customer loyalty. Similarly for employees, right? You want to improve productivity, you want to make your employees engaged, you want them to be more efficient. And when employees are efficient, engaged, and more productive, they are happier, right? And they are spending time doing more productive work. More time is spent on work that makes a difference, right? And that automatically translates into better customer service, that automatically translates into money saved for your organization. And what is the cost of inefficiency, right? I mean, if your employees are unproductive or your customers have trouble reaching out to you for support, for placing new orders, for getting status updates of what they have done with you, right? I mean, then what is the cost of this inefficiency? Vivek, maybe you would like to shed some light on how people can reduce this cost, and what are the actual costs that they might be incurring because of this.
So, I mean, the early example that I called out, that over the 7 years that I've been with Microsoft, and in pretty much leading, a kind of a much bigger team than I actually had previously, if we've been given 50% of time back to focus on the customer and sell more, that's a potential to basically increase our revenues by 50%. And over the course of the last 7 years, right, when I started 7 years ago, the business that I handle today compared to then has actually grown 6 times, right? And yet the size of my team has remained the same. It is because we got time back that has translated into much more revenue and profit for the company than the cost of the software that we use, right? So fundamentally, think about the process part of it. How do you actually refine the process part of it? Because using disparate pieces of software, or not even having a software there and doing many of these tasks manually, the amount of time and money that is spent integrating information, and then that information basically has different versions on it, results in so much wasted in the organization that integrated systems are becoming the order of the day, especially in the COVID world, where customer service at speed matters more than anything else. Because only if you have information on hand, the right information on hand, integrated information on hand to serve the customer quickly, that's going to distinguish the organizations that are able to react to customers faster versus those that will not. And it's a latter category that's not, that are going to be the organizations that will fall by the wayside, right? So process efficiency, I think, is going to be fundamentally the big factor in the successful organizations versus those that are not. And that process efficiency and integration has to be layered with a layer of technology that allows you to bring information, whether it's sitting in a chat, it's sitting in a document, it's sitting in a record within your transactional systems. It doesn't matter where it's sitting, right? Sorry, we're on mute.
My bad. Okay. So can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. So thank you, Vivek. And let's move on. So now the question obviously that everybody has is, okay, how do we get there? Right? How do we get there? What is the solution that will help us digitalize, automate, and be integrated? What is this magic solution? What is this magic wand that I can wave? And here is the answer. It is Deskera plus Microsoft, right? All of this ecosystem, this entire ecosystem is built on cloud infrastructure. So it is accessible from anywhere. It is remote friendly. It is mobile friendly. It is collaborative by its nature. Plus the integration with Microsoft Teams and 365 make collaboration that much easier. and all the integration that we are already working on will incorporate elements of machine learning and AI that will make data accessibility and data interpretation easy for all the levels in your company, right? Obviously, you will have your layer of security built on top of that, which makes it important. I mean, which will make it so that unauthorized access is prevented, and you can automate the core business processes of your company. What are core business processes, right? Marketing is a core business process. Accounting, inventory management, procurement, this is a core business process. Recruitment of employees, training of employees, running the payroll, leave and attendance management, claims management, these are core processes. And then you have got growth processes, which should also be core to your company if they are not today. What do I mean by growth processes? Growth processes are going online, setting up your e-commerce store, managing the e-commerce store, setting up landing pages to drive traffic to your website through multiple channels, and then converting them through conversion funnels, and then using the conversions either for lead or for actual sales, for retargeting of additional promotions and products and new releases and so on. And all of this is done by Deskera and Microsoft together. If you want to try it out, it's super easy. Just go to deskera.com, sign up for a new account, and just try it out for free. There's no strings attached, free trial available. Go ahead, give it a go, and you will be able to do all of this and a lot more. And with Deskera, I mean, and if you don't have a Microsoft account, why wouldn't you have a Microsoft account, right? I mean, nearly everybody has it. So just connect your Microsoft account to the Deskera account, and you will see the benefit of the two working together right away. I mean, you don't have to wait for 3 months or 6 months, right? I mean, there are already integrations in place that will immediately show you the benefit of using it, and it's just going to keep getting better.
Yeah, and I actually want to call up something in addition to what Saurabh just said, right? And this goes back to the question, Quavin, that you asked, right? What are the most important pieces of integration? Now, there might be certain pieces of integration that we might be doing, which might not be useful for your company, right? Or there might be certain other use cases that you have that are very, very important to you. Please give that feedback to the Deskera team because they're working closely with us in the background anyway. And what are the things that are really, really important to you in terms of how you'd like us to do that integration that benefits you, right? Because fundamentally, what we are doing is for the benefit of our customers. So please keep that feedback coming. And this is to all the participants in this call. Please keep the feedback coming on what can we do to actually help you better, right? And we'd be more than happy to roll out those features as early as possible. You're on mute, Saurabh.
Sorry, I don't know. I am getting a bit of a cough though. I guess it's because of speaking a lot. Maybe I should speak less. Not COVID, I hope. So
Yeah.
okay. All right. So moving on. So let's use this. Yeah. Thank you. Now, there is this concept that I wanted to talk to you about growth and using a growth CRM for expanding and increasing your revenue and acquiring more customers. All right. Now, what is growth and what is growth CRM, right? I mean, when you typically think of CRMs and when you typically think of, customer management, then you are focused on uh, customer retention, customer support, customer analytics, operational CRM, analytical CRM, right? These are the things that come to mind, but you would never have thought about growth CRM. How can a CRM help you grow? What CRMs typically and traditionally have done, CRMs like Salesforce or Pipedrive or whatever, right? What they have done is they are designed to make your sales process efficient. And that's a good thing. You need that. But what we have also in Deskera is a growth CRM, a CRM that helps you grow, that helps you acquire more customers, that helps you generate more revenue in addition to making your sales process efficient. And how do we do that? We do that by using smart customer segmentation that is done via landing pages and conversion funnels and driving lead generation through email campaigns. I don't know if you have tried to run a drip email campaign or an email broadcast for your customers or leads or not. But if you have, then one roadblock that you would always keep hitting into is number of contacts and number of emails that you can send. Now imagine, I mean, the cost balloons up as you want to reach out to more people with the with the emails that you are sending out. And then you have the added problem of whatever leads that you are generating through your drip campaigns, for example, to be transferred into your CRM, where it is assigned to a salesperson who will then go on and do an activities and so on. Now turn this around on its head, right? What if instead of having to send it to a salesperson, right? What if you have a set of landing pages that are interconnected, which is effectively your salesperson talking to your uh, consumer, right? But online. And you drive traffic to these pages, these interconnected pages. And what these interconnected pages are essentially is what you would call a conversion funnel. This is a conversion funnel. Now, now there are different funnels, that exist out there. I mean, you would have heard of the term sales funnel, which is like your IDA, and I mean, there are multiple concepts there, but this is not a concept. This is something actionable. You you create a set of landing pages interconnected, and then drive traffic to these landing pages from your drip campaigns, from your ads, from your organic traffic, or even from visitors to your store, right? And then optimize this conversion funnel for people to just buy more from you. And we are doing a growth webinar soon, specifically on growth strategies and conversion funnels and optimizing landing pages and marketing automation. So stay tuned to our YouTube channel, to our LinkedIn, and to our Facebook group, to know when the updates, to know when we are going live with that. But growth CRM should be a super important part of your strategy. Why? Because with a growth CRM, you have the capability of capturing even dropped off leads, even dropped off folks, which you would never be able to do if you have a physical store or if you're not using a growth CRM, right? And then you have the option of retargeting these drop offs to convert them at a later time. You're not losing out on any information. Your data is with you, and you are maximizing the data that you have collected instead of letting it, stay there. And that is what is super important, because growth is going to differentiate you from your competitor in 2021 and the years that are going to be. Uh, if you are only limited to the customer base that you have today for your physical store, and you're not working on growing that beyond the boundaries or beyond the capabilities of your physical store, then times can be tough in pretty soon. And remember this: if you are not doing it, your competitor is probably thinking about doing it.
So I just wanted to kind of add another perspective to what Saurabh said, right? In Microsoft, we actually have implemented a lot of analytics at scale, right? And the so while implementing analytics at the scale that Microsoft has implemented is not, the SMEs don't have the resources to that, but there are certain principles that I think are very important to having something like a growth CRM is, and the principles are that the cost of retaining a customer, an existing customer, is about 10 times cheaper than the cost of acquiring a new customer, right? So even when you're looking at growth CRM, firstly is how do you actually provide even better service to your customer, right? So that you basically kind of retain them. You can do upselling, cross-selling, or in the case of the company that's selling and servicing diesel generators, right? How do you retain that customer so you can sell them more parts? Because in the parts you generally tend to make more money, right? And then you basically then become more efficient in acquiring new customers, so that instead of 10 times, you basically it costs you only half as much to acquire a new customer because you have that intelligence there, right? So I just kind of wanted to call that out, that even when we do analytics, these are some of the principles we think about, that we have to give very good service to our existing customers, because the cost of acquiring a new customer is always going to be a lot higher. But then what are those new processes and insights that we can add that will allow us to basically acquire new customers at a price, at a cost that was a lot lesser than what it was previously before we implemented some of these systems?
Absolutely. So once you have, and again, the good part is that growth CRM, and the other part of CRM is customer management, which is more focused on customer acquisition, more focused on customer retention and using customer analytics. And all of this is all together, right? So you don't have you don't have to choose between one kind of CRM or the other. Both are there in Deskera, and you can use them. So if you have an offline process, or if you have an online process, or if you have a hybrid process, you can run both using Deskera. And the advantages obviously are, you will get more upsell and cross sell opportunities. The churn is going to reduce, and you will have a higher lifetime value from each customer. Now, another advantage of digitalization and having an integrated process in place is better cash flow. How do you achieve better cash flow? Obviously, one quick win is online invoicing and payments. And statistics show that online invoicing and online payments tend to reduce your time to receive money by up to 5 times, right? On an average across the world, the delay in receiving money for invoices for small and medium businesses is around anywhere between 45 days to 60 days. And imagine that you can reduce that by 5 times. Instead of having to wait for 45 or 60 days, you are cutting down that to about 9 or 10 days. That is more money in your bank faster, and automatically your cash flow improves. Then obviously you have e-invoicing and credit controls and better AR management. All of these things are part of Deskera, right? So by better AR management, you have your aging reports, you have your customer analysis, so you know which your best customers are, which your not so good customers are, right? Credit controls allow you to then manage this, so you can give higher credit to people who tend to pay on time, customers who are not so good at paying on time. And then you can also add incentivized payment terms, which is basically that, okay, if you pay me before 15 days, I'll give you 5% extra discount, and so on. And these are some just some of the things that you can do to improve the cash flow. And all of this obviously has to tie in very closely with your finance and accounting and invoicing. So you automatically are improving your cash flow by adopting these methods, which are kind of built into Deskera.
So there's a request from Sassy to share the recording of the seminar.
Absolutely, Sassy. Yes, this is going to be shared with you. If you have registered with us, then you will receive a recording of this webinar. Plus, it is going to be available on our YouTube channel. So if you have subscribed to the YouTube channel, you can watch it anytime. All right. So moving on. So lower cost of business. Now there are multiple heads that contribute to the cost of business. Vivek, would you want to shed some light on lowering the cost of business? And you have already spoken about how Mike, you yourself have experienced greater productivity by automating and digitalization of business processes and improving processes. Correct? Any other
Yeah,
thing that you would want to
I'll tell you what I've seen, right? So there's obviously where you actually take care of your process first, integrate the process, use technologies that come integrated out of the box, because operationally it's been such an overhead for companies trying to manage a lot of these things, because it's not just not just managing disparate pieces and trying to pull together different disparate pieces. You also have to essentially have skill sets across very, very different pieces of software that come with different pieces of architecture, and to secure them and all of that stuff. It's just too much work, where many organizations, many of our customers, right, that we've seen, 90% of their expenditure, especially on the IT side, has gone in just managing or keeping the upkeep of the IT assets, right? Not even basically trying to get insights out of that. So that's an area. But one other area where we've actually given a lot of money back to our customers, and I'll quote this example of this government-linked organization that's our customer, as well as a private healthcare institution in Singapore. It's a big private healthcare institution in Singapore. When we went and did an analysis on for them, a TCO analysis, what were these different pieces of software that were sitting within an environment? So just to basically, kind of mask the numbers that basically they had the saving, if they were spending $100 on disparate pieces of software, and we said, look, here's an integrated set of solutions that you can actually get for $40, right? So straight away we save you firstly 60% on the cost of the acquisition of the software, right? In year 1, year 2, year 3. But the operational cost, this is the kind of savings that you will get based on certain benchmarking stuff that studies that Forrester has helped us do. So not only do they actually lower their initial cost of acquiring the software, but they also actually get a lot of savings on the operational aspect of it, and that's essentially what we've done. The other thing that where they've actually ended up saving a lot of money or increasing their productivity is where we have proactively reached out to our customers to get their teams enabled, right? So, like I mentioned, that at the start of the pandemic, Microsoft actually democratized a lot of the internal learning courses that we had for our employees, and we made them available free, right, to our customers and partners and so on. So whether it's our AI school that we've actually launched and which is available for any one of our customers to actually go and learn, there's also a platform that we have called MS Learn or Microsoft Learn, where you can take free courses and basically give up a skill set. So it happens where you do process optimization, you do an optimization of the IT assets that you have, you start deploying things that are integrated, but also skilling up all your people, right, on how to leverage all of these technologies, because there's a lot of AI and ML that's already built into a lot of these technologies, and that's where you get a lot of savings out there. Which is why I was giving that suggestion earlier. Just go online, and then you'll basically find a lot of AI capabilities already built into the software that you use, right? And start leveraging that. You'll actually save a lot of money. A lot of money. I save a lot of time using the AI capabilities of Excel Online and PowerPoint Online. I just save a lot of money to the company.
Maybe Vivek, maybe we can do like a follow-up session sometime.
Yeah. More than
To
happy.
show these capabilities on.
Yeah. I can actually get people from Microsoft to show you capabilities that are mind-boggling, right? Sometimes when they show it to me, I'm puzzled, right? And having worked for Microsoft, many of these capabilities even I don't know, but the ones I know save me a lot of time.
No, absolutely.
More,
I mean,
more than happy.
Awesome. So we'll plan for that, right? Another way of lowering your Vivek, I think.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. I can hear you. I thought we lost you. Okay. Great. So another advantage of using an integrated system wherein your sales, accounting, procurement, and inventory are kind of integrated is that you immediately end up reducing inventory costs. What are the reasons for higher inventory costs generally, right? One, because your sales number one doesn't know how much inventory is there, so they may end up overselling or underselling. They may not know the correct price of the acquisition of your products, so they may actually undercut, and you may end up making lesser profit than you would have actually wanted to, right? Then obviously sometimes customers comes and they place orders, and you take the orders because you don't have real-time visibility of how much inventory you have, and then they expect the orders to be out in 2 days. But then when you send the order to your warehouse guy, he says, hey, we don't have this product with us, so we need to order it. And then you have to go ahead and order it from your supplier, who will send it to you using their own lead time. And then your customer obviously is not going to be very happy because he expected the delivery to be in 2 days and you're taking 5 days. And all of this kind of creates a negative loop, right? A vicious cycle that kind of ends up with the customer being churned eventually. And this kind of repeats. And having an integrated system makes this so much easier, right? So let's say that you are, I mean, I'll take an example from Deskera, right? I mean, you're creating an order. I mean, you have received an order and you are entering that order in the system, for example, right? And as soon as you enter a quantity that is not available in the warehouse, immediately an alert will come up saying that, hey, this quantity, I mean, you do not have sufficient quantities to process this order. So do you want to place a back order right now? And immediately that back order, you can place the back order on the spot. It will select the vendor, or you can change the vendor, based on your preference, and send the back order to them, who will then immediately send it back. Who will then process that back order then, of course. And when you receive the back order from the supplier, then you get a notification that, okay, this back order has been received, or you have enough quantity now to fulfill this order. So you can go ahead and do this now. I mean, this is just one small example. Another way to manage inventory costs is by having a reorder level specified. You can specify the reorder level and the reorder quantity. And once that is specified, if your stock is going below the reorder level, then the system places an order, right? We are adding some super advanced capabilities to the inventory management system in Deskera. For example, ABC analysis, XYZ analysis of inventory movement analysis, and there is going to be a whole new dashboard that very soon you will be able to see. So stay tuned for those updates as well. But yes, inventory costs is a major area of cost reduction and lowering the cost of business overall if you manage it well. In fact, we have done an inventory management masterclass earlier, which is available on our YouTube channel. So if you haven't seen it and you want to get more in the details of better inventory management, then go ahead and take a look at that as well. So moving on, better human capital management. So improved productivity and engagement of employees, right, is obviously an outcome of having digital processes in place, because your employees are not spending a lot of time doing manual, boring work. So they are doing work that is more constructive, that is more engaging, and automatically they feel more engaged to the organization, which kind of helps you to manage employee churn as well. Correct. Plus, with an integrated system in place, right? You have an employee, they are onboarded and are able to use what you are doing and understand what you're doing faster and better, because it's one system that they need to get used to, instead of getting used to 15 different systems and then understanding how to send data from one system to another. So they are productive faster, right? uh, Vivek, what do you have to say about this?
Okay, so there are a few things, right? Now, there are few things that are actually happening within Microsoft in terms of this. One is where I talked about the democratization of how we took our internal learning content, and we've kind of put it out there for anybody to go and take free learning courses. But essentially, the other layer that we are adding, for example, right? So I'll give you an example. Say, Saurabh and I are essentially working in company A, and Saurabh and I, in company A, we have 10 customers. And regarding those 10 customers, we share a lot of emails, we share a lot of documents, we get onto Teams calls, and we share a lot of chats around those customers. What we are doing at the next level, one scenario I gave you is that if Saurabh and I now want to search on customer one out of the 10 customers, we go and type in customer one, everything comes up, right? All the chats, the documents, and all come up. But the next level that we've taken this is that when Saurabh is working on his own, and he basically just wants to access certain documents quickly that he most commonly accesses, we have already embedded machine learning and AI so that Saurabh, whenever he goes into his into his Office 365 environment, there is something we have there called Viva Topics, which is a new capability that we have rolled out, where he will essentially he will see all the documents that relate to the customers that he works with most commonly bubble up automatically. He doesn't even need to do a search, right? So similarly, with an integrated Deskera and the Office 365 environment, the scenario that you'll have is you've got this customer 1 to 10 who are actually sitting within your Deskera environment, and against those customers, you are exchanging emails and all of that stuff. All that information is also going to bubble up. That will make your employees more productive, plus allow you to search for information around those top customers much more easily, right? So that's how your employees will become productive, and which is also kind of one of the reasoning why we said was, when we integrate with Deskera, we actually bring the power of the machine learning that we have together with whatever the Deskera system actually captures, whether it's around your customer, whether it's around the employee, or whether it's around the supplier, or whatever else, right? Yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks, Vivek. Rosalino is interested in the Inventory Matters Masterclass. So, absolutely.
Somebody's responded to him already.
Okay.
Somebody from Deskera has already responded. Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. So, anybody, anyone, if you want to view the Inventory Management Masterclass, it's on a YouTube channel. Just do a quick search in YouTube, you will get it. All right. So moving ahead, better collaboration and security. I think we have spent a lot of time in this, but what we are bringing to you as part of Deskera and Microsoft is role-based access security management, remote work enablement. There is multi-factor authentication built in our systems, right? And obviously the benefits of cloud access and best-in-class security, and the capability to do business on the go with an award-winning mobile app that supports everything that you do on your desktop or laptop, on your phone and your tablet as well. Okay, so that brings us to what a modern growth organization looks like. All right, or what it might end up looking like. So let's go in here. All right. So I'm just leaving it here, and Vivek, you want to uh, talk about this and how how SMEs today can convert into growth organizations.
See, I think right now, when I talk to SMEs, I think the biggest thing that they're asking for is help me, firstly cut down my cost, because fundamentally the business has fluctuated. Now, depending on what kind of an SME you are in, you are, because if you are, for example, a retail, SME with a brick and mortar store, then obviously they've got hit a lot harder than somebody who's actually in, an SME serving some essential industry, right? But most commonly, the concern has been around serving the customers better and around getting new growth opportunities, right? Now, the thing is, to acquire a new customer, like I said, is always more expensive than retaining existing customers. So I think the biggest priority for any SME, and this is how Microsoft also thinks about, about how we run our business, is give your existing customers the best experience they've ever had. And to do that, firstly, unify all the different disparate pieces of information that you have around that customer into one single repository, and the customer will start to see a difference in how you serve them, because nobody knows how long this COVID situation is going to last. And it will be, it could be, 6 months, it could be 1 year before we actually, start operating in a normal way and seeing our customers just the way we were seeing them, 2 years ago. Now, if we are going to continue to see them remotely, then you need to have every one of your employees to actually have, information on hand regarding that customer. And so my first suggestion would be unify all the pieces of data that you have, whether it is talking to a customer, right? So whether you make a phone call to them, you have a chat with them, or you basically exchange an email with them, or you basically have, all the pieces of information that's sitting across the different source systems being able to be searched and brought together, at the same time. And make sure that capability is extended to each one of your employees that touches a customer. Whether it's a service employee, whether it's a sales employee, everybody should have access to it. But obviously, based on whatever they should be having access to. Not everybody should have access to, for example, financial information. So unification of the data to, give a better experience to your customer will allow you to actually earn more dollars from the same customer that you have, right? Protect that first, because if you start losing existing customers now, remember, getting a new customer will be even harder. It'll always be harder. So secure that piece first. Secure the baseline, the crown jewels of what you have. That would be my recommendation, and that's what we have been doing, since the start of the pandemic. That we have been serving our existing customers, like never before.
Thank you, Vivek. Adding on to what Vivek said, right? I mean, you want to make sure that the customers that you have are not being lost, right? I mean, and you're trying to upsell to them, right? And how do you identify these upsell opportunities, these cross-sell opportunities? How do you increase the lifetime value from every single customer that you have? The way to do that is to create a mechanism that makes it easy for you to one look at their buying behaviors and patterns and analytics, and then use that information effectively to drive them back to your shop. It could be your physical store, it could be your online store. Why online store is good and needed here, or a landing page is needed here, is because we don't know how long COVID is going to last, right? It may be possible that they may not be able to come to your store, or maybe they don't want to come to your store because of the apprehensions about going out in groups or public places or whatever, right? I mean, those are things that may be there, right? I mean, we cannot predict how our customers are gonna react or behave, or I mean how the situation is going to go. What we can do as businesses is to plan for different eventualities and different outcomes. And what you want to do is you want to have different channels of capturing and getting your customer back to your store, be it online, be it physically, right? And then use this channel to drive more sales, to get them interested into more of what you have to offer. And that is how this growth organization should function. And what this will also do is that it will help you capture more customers as well, right? Because it's online, so you're not limited by the by geography anymore. Correct. You can be getting orders from Jurong or from Malaysia or Indonesia as well, right? And it's easy to scale that nowadays because there are so many fulfillment options available now. Earlier, that may have been a challenge, right? I mean, how will you, send something to somebody in, Australia? But today you can do that if, let's say, you end up getting an order from Australia, right? But yeah, I mean, that's little down the road, but yes, it, right away, right off the bat, with your existing customers, you can start selling more. You can start retargeting customers who have gone inactive, who you have not heard from, right? Keep them engaged, keep them aware of what you have and what you are coming up with, and what are the different offers and promotions and products, and use that to drive more revenue for your business. And with that, we come to the end of this digitalization for SMEs masterclass. And before we finish, Vivek, any parting thoughts that you would want to share with our audience today?
Yeah, I would say, just one thing that keep the channels of communication open for the partnership that Deskera and Microsoft have decided to embark on, right? Which actually now has been about 1 year in the making. We want to actually prioritize those things that are important to you, and please keep the feedback coming on what are the capabilities that you require, because each of the sub industries that we have, or the industries that we have, that the SME sit in, right, actually have their own quirks. There's some peculiarities that you have that are important to you. So keep that feedback coming, because what we want to do is to fundamentally drive things that impact you in a positive way, right? So that's the only thing I would like to say. I think we've covered enough on some of the guiding factors. If there is more you want to learn about what we actually have free of charge that you can actually take advantage of, just connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is here, right? Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll definitely reply. I always reply. And but yeah, just keep the feedback coming, and keep the feedback coming to Deskera, because we'll work with them in the background to make sure that we are delivering to your expectations. Yeah. And thank you so much for supporting both Deskera and Microsoft.
Thank you, Vivek. And please do not forget to subscribe to our channel. We are going to come up with more great content for small and medium businesses, for improving your processes, for just digitalizing and automating everything that you can do, and what is the best way to go about that. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our blog. The blog contains a lot of useful information. We have an academy section which gives you, a complete lowdown on multiple concepts and new ideas and concepts, and what is going on in the industry. So you definitely don't want to miss out on that. Plus, do visit the Microsoft Learn page and the Deskera Academy to be updated on everything that is going on digitalization, on automation, on improving your business processes, and on growth and selling more and generating more revenue. All right. With that, thank you so much. And thank you, Vivek, for being a part of this and answering these questions. It was
Yeah,
very nice talking
great.
to you.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks to all the attendees. Really, I enjoyed the questions.
Right. Thank you.